The second phase of the cognitive revolution reacted against cognitivism by turning to biology and embodiment. John Searle, in particular, has attacked the digital computer as a model for the mind on the grounds that its information processing does not include anything that could be described as human understanding. Searle's main challenge then was to the lack of intentionality in computers. Intentionality being the philosophical term for the attribution of meaning to information, representations, and symbols. To more forcefully make his points, Searle devised a thought experiment, the Chinese room, which has become one of the most famous in the history of theories of consciousness. Messages in the form of sequences of Chinese ideograms are inputted on one side of the room. The operator inside the Chinese room does not speak Chinese in any conventional sense. Instead, he has an operating manual in English which tells him which Chinese ideograms to respond with according to which ideograms come in. This enables him to put together a response in the form of a different string of Chinese ideograms, which he outputs to the other side of the room. This response is meaningful and comprehensible to the genuine Chinese speaker on the other side of the room. Searle's point here is that although the operator is effectively acting as an information processor in Chinese, he still has no real understanding or knowledge of the Chinese language. And by analogy, this is his critique of the computational model of the mind, i.e., although computers can simulate what goes on in the human mind, they have no comprehension of or even interest in the meaning of the mind's activities, which for human beings is the whole point. Geoffrey Gray expresses all this in a very clear and dramatic way in the following quote. If you have ever learned Latin, you know how to take the stem of a verb and conjugate it. You can do this without any idea of what the verb means, or even if the stem doesn't exist at all. That's syntax without semantics, and that critically is what computers do. They conjugate strings of symbols without any knowledge of the meanings of the strings. This line of argument may appear to contradict a common way of describing computers, namely that they are systems for the processing of information. But in its everyday sense, information is information about something. It conveys meaning. But I have just asserted that computers cannot, on their own, compute meaning. The information they process is interpreted by human beings. For the computer itself, it is uninterpreted information. End quote. Searle concludes that computers don't and can't have any understanding in any humanly meaningful sense of the word.